Hey, how are you? I'm SliceofOtaku, and I am in pain over the new Steven Universe episode, A Single Pale Rose. Now, I adored Can't Go Back, and A Single Pale Rose was really great for a while. The scene where Pearl is found just crying her eyes out was great and pretty much the highlight of the episode for me. But when we got to the final Pearl, everything changed. Everything that was immensely predictable that had been theorized for ages by the vast majority of fans came to fruition. And if this mystery was like one of those interactive CD games like Pajama Sam, that would be cool. But in this case, when your final gambit is the most predictable route, it makes the writing feel weak. And I'm sure that some would simply attribute that to the incredible theory-based aptitude of the community at large. But when we take a look at other works of fiction with fan bases just as big, if not bigger, than that of Steven Universe, and their creators manage to maintain a level of unpredictability, that argument sort of falls flat, whether it be a children's show or not. Being a kid's show doesn't mean it can't be criticized, which a lot of people somehow fail to realize. And it's fine for certain points to be predictable, of course, not saying the whole thing has to be unforeseeable. But when something like this is the culmination of so many episodes, so many subplots and interwoven into the entirety of the story, is it really too much to ask for a bit of ingenuity? And trust me, I know that the majority of you will be in disagreement with me over this, and that's fine. For a lot of people right now, this is a moment of being right that feels great to bask in, so I'm not trying to take that away from anyone. It's just that at this point, I feel as though I may have been giving the plot of this show a little too much credit, considering the significance of this revelation and just how hyped up it was. This is essentially now our frame of reference as to how far the crew will go in terms of mysteries and secrets. And simply in terms of delivery, my biggest gripe has to be how certain things were seemingly omitted in order for this to occur and seem like it works. Firstly, the whole Pink Diamond's gem turning to be that of Rose Quartz just doesn't make sense. If Pink Diamond's gem were to turn, because of its angular design, it would be hexagonal, not circular. I've watched these clips over and over again and it makes zero sense and comes off as incredibly contrived. The only thing that could somehow rectify this would be the conclusion that as a diamond, Pink Diamond was capable of modifying her own gem, which happens to be the one thing that all other gems cannot shapeshift. One of the few firm rules that we have when it comes to the anatomy of gem kind, and that's just ignored. And if that is the case, it is what it is, but please verbalize that, because what purpose would that serve? Which is important because gem kind is all about purpose and reasoning behind every aspect of their being, so something like this would need an intended usage, unless it's akin to Peridot's metal powers, which once again is something that would need to be explained at some point. And as far as I'm concerned, her gem rotating means that she doesn't have the ability to modify her gem. It's just the presentation of it. It's in the same place. It's just coincidental that it looks like a Rose Quartz, which it shouldn't based on shape, but we've already talked about that. Next, Pink Diamond takes up a handful of dirt, blows on it, crushes it in her hand, and it's made to look like authentic gem shards, which really just felt like it was pulled out of nowhere to make things work, so that by eating it after being poofed, the fake shards would fall, which makes no sense because Amethyst, a chronic eater, has been poofed numerous times, and we never see a disgusting mess left behind. Even in the episode Crack the Whip, Amethyst consumes a monstrous amount of donuts and is later poofed by Jasper, and we have no goopy mess left. Then I really felt some type of way about the portrayal of this character. We definitely have a lot to talk about in regards to Pink Diamond's character in another video, but I want to cover something specific here. Pink Diamond is coded to be a child, while Rose Quartz is coded to be maternal. So Pink Diamond, who is once again mentally a child in this guise as Rose Quartz, presumably fornicated with the native human inhabitants. Say what you will about gems being old and such, but relatively speaking, and contextually speaking, that is just a whole mess. Like that's disturbing. That's not cool. Maybe I'm the only one who felt that way, but hey. Then we have Blue Diamond referring to Pink Diamond's inability to dismantle human cities. And I was just sitting there like, huh? Because it'd be one thing if they depicted the progression of human history to be different from that of the real world, but they don't. Pearl stated that she was present on the planet at a time when humans were hunters and gatherers. Now, I understand that the war waged on for over 1,000 years, but cities? Humans were hunters and gatherers until about 11 or 12,000 years ago, and the first establishment capable of being categorized as a city wasn't until around 9,500 years ago. Taking the Gem War and adding the time since then, we have at most close to 7,000 years ago. So what cities are we talking about? And with their technological capabilities, dismantling mere tribes would be child's play. And I get that Pink Diamond was playing both sides and BSing, but that's just a weak lie. Next, how did Pink Diamond and Pearl, as Pink Pearl, managed to be in two places at once, coordinating the rebellion as well as commanding her court? How does that work? And more than that, how does that work for over 1,000 years? Like, Pink Diamond is pretty much the equivalent of Miley Cyrus and Rose Quartz is just Hannah Montana. Like, these aren't part-time jobs where you can just clock out. It's not even as if gems sleep so they're on different schedules. These are immortals with absolutely no need for rest or consumption, so how does that work? Then we have multiple eyewitness accounts that Pink Diamond stepped out of her palanquin and was attacked from the front. Pink stepped out casually at first, and then Pearl, disguised as Rose, walked out behind her from the very same exit way and struck her. Guys, I could understand if there was like a secret exit, or if Pearl walked out as a Pearl and then came back as Rose. But them both coming from the very same origin point with a multitude of eyes on the scene is just ridiculous. But moving forwards, I'm not entirely sure of my feelings in regards to this, but a point my buddy Awestruck Vox presented to me a while ago was that pretty much all of season 4 revolved around Steven accepting his mother's crimes and coping with that. And the question is that development now sullied by this? Like, was there a point to this being stretched out for the entirety of a season only to be wasted energy in the next? I'm honestly not sure, but I do know that what we previously believed to be her crimes are nothing in comparison to our current understanding. Next, there's also the issue of Steven. If Pink's gemstone Rose was a conscious change, then how is it that with Steven's birth and or creation that he didn't retain his mother's true gem appearance? Once he came into existence, she would cease to exist, so it's not as if she could just make the change like a circumcision. And with that, the fusions we have seen both Rose and Steven be a part of are now in question. And although not explicitly stated in the series itself, fusion is apparently what gems think would be cool when fused together, which I was willing to accept for quite some time, but now that just sounds shaky because once again, if it's not stated in the show, it immediately loses weight, and that definition doesn't exactly account for accidental fusions, which all of Steven's fusions are. Steven doesn't have the same limiters that Pink Diamond placed upon herself to maintain her facade. If Steven is outputting his power unfiltered, then we should certainly see that in play with fusions. And I suppose Stefani is debatable simply because the organic nature of their body could stand to be a limiter. But in the case of Smoky Quartz, there shouldn't be a Smoky Quartz. If Steven isn't voluntarily maintaining how his gem is placed like Pink would as Rose, why doesn't it revert to its true orientation when fused? And that's not even something Pink Diamond could have a contingency upon, simply because she couldn't have foreseen that Steven would be capable of fusion in the first place. It really all just boils down to plot convenience, and that's just disappointing. I get that this is something that the crew have wanted to do forever, but it feels as though there wasn't enough adjustment to other elements that may not have been planned to such a degree, and so they conflict. That's one of the huge ways in which I feel the progression of the show is restricted by the various static rules and regulations the crew places upon themselves. It's like playing a sport where the refs are calling everything a foul. It slows down the progression of the game and makes it drag on to an unfulfilling point. Really, just a bit more adaptation could go a long way, and you would think that as a storyboard-driven show, it would be prone to going that way, but it just doesn't. And of course, placing yourselves under certain constraints can breed ingenuity, but maybe they're too used to their way of doing things and need to mix things up. And I don't want you guys thinking that I'm like foaming at the mouth with anger or anything. I don't mind where we are right now. The way in which we got here certainly could have been better, but I'm content with our current placement to a degree. Unfortunately, this means that White Diamond holds no value once again, but I think we just need to end this season before we can even contemplate her existence. Right now, the remainder of Season 5 needs to be focused on the spread of this information and its reactions, taking this news to everyone who needs to hear it and confronting their feelings towards it, which is precisely where the writing of the crew truly shines. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I loved Can't Go Back, and Pearl had some amazing emotional scenes in A Single Pale Rose. And with the promo for the next batch of episodes we can expect, I am Team Sapphire right now. Sapphire seemingly had the perfect reaction to this, and I now stan the queen even more, and I am happy to have her on the outro of these videos, so shout out to Sapphire. But yeah, hopefully not too many people misinterpret my criticism simply because they conflict with their own opinions, and really just get what I'm trying to say. Because once again, where we are is awesome, but how we got here is weak at best. I really wish we could have gotten this episode at an earlier point, but hey, it is what it is. Let me know what you think about both the episode and my faults with the execution in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.